All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to step into the ring with a true underdog story, the 1976 film Rocky.
Oh, Rocky.
You've brought us a ton of great sources on it, including the film's Wikipedia page, and our mission, if we choose to accept it, is to go a few rounds with this one.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
Dig deep and figure out how this seemingly small film became such a knockout punch, both critically and culturally, and well, just what makes it tick, where it all began, how it all came together, and why it still packs such a powerful punch all these years later.
Yeah. At first glance, Rocky might seem like, a typical boxing movie, a sports drama.
Right?
But when you really start to peel back the layers, you see it's much more than that.
Absolutely.
It's a story about perseverance, about heart, about beating the odds, both in the ring and in life.
And that story really starts with the man himself, Silvester Stallone. Before Rocky, he was struggling, right? He had this novel, Paradise Alley, and a screenplay based on it, but he just couldn't seem to get anyone interested.
Yeah, he was in that classic position of a lot of artists and creatives trying to break through, facing rejection. But then something happened that changed everything.
Ah, the famous story, right? This is where things get good.
Yeah. March 1975, Stallone's watching the World Championship boxing match between, the legend Muhammad Ali and this pretty much unknown fighter, Chuck Wepner.
Chuck the Bayonne Bleeder Wepner. Man, what a name.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about that fight. I mean, nobody gave Wepner a chance, right? He was a total underdog going up against the greatest.
He was a long shot, huge underdog, much like the character Stallone would eventually create. And you know what really caught Stallone's eye? It wasn't just that Wepner was tough. It was his resilience. He didn't just take a beating. The guy went the distance with Ali. He even managed to knock Ali down in the 9th round. Talk about an upset.
I mean, you can imagine Stallone watching this, just mind blown, right?
Oh, absolutely. It must have been like this bolt of inspiration, seeing this ordinary guy push the champ to his absolute limit.
And bam, that's when the Rocky script was born, right? He wrote that initial 90-page script in something like 3 days, right?
Yeah, it was an incredible burst of creative energy. And that draft, as impressive as it is, it's only, a small part of what the final screenplay would become. And here's something interesting. The Rocky Balboa we all know and love wasn't quite the character Stallone initially had in mind. He was originally written as, well, a much darker kind of anti-hero figure.
Really? A darker Rocky. That's so different from the inspiring, relatable guy we see in the film. What happened? What changed?
Well, it seems Stallone, he talked it over with his wife at the time, and they decided to soften Rocky's edges a bit, make him, more sympathetic, someone the audience could really get behind and cheer for.
I guess that makes sense. You want people to root for the guy. So Stallone's got this great script, a potential knockout punch, but of course getting it made was a whole other fight, especially with a budget of just $1.1 million. And a 28-day shooting schedule in Philly. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, those are some serious limitations. But you know what? Sometimes limitations can actually breed creativity.
Ah, so that's where the magic happens, right?
Exactly. The studio, they initially wanted a big star for the role of Rocky. They were considering Robert Redford, Burt Reynolds, even James Caan. But Stallone, he was adamant.
He knew this was his story to tell, right?
Yeah, he basically said, no way I'm playing Rocky or I'm walking. That's commitment.
Talk about having faith in your vision. I mean, it really is a, kind of a Rocky move itself, right?
Totally. And speaking of casting, the role of Adrian also had its fair share of, interesting backstories.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that.
Well, Talia Shire, who ended up playing Adrian, she was cast really close to the start of filming. They had a hard time finding the right actress, someone who could really embody that, that quiet strength, that vulnerability that Adrian has.
That's interesting. I mean, Talia Shire, she's perfect as Adrian, and hard to imagine anyone else in that role.
And, Susan Sarandon, she was actually in the running for Adrian, too. But they thought she was, get this, too beautiful for the part. They needed someone who, conveyed that kind of shyness, that inner strength that was specific to Adrian.
I guess every casting decision is kind of a gamble in a way. And then there's Apollo Creed, the perfect antagonist the champion Rocky has to go up against.
Yeah. The original plan was for Ken Norton, the real-life boxer, to play Apollo.
Wow, that would have been something.
But then Norton had to drop out to participate in an OBC Superstars competition. And that opened the door for Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers, man. I mean, he's incredible as Apollo Creed. I can't imagine anyone else bringing that intensity, that charisma to the role.
Right. He had it all. And there's this great story about Weathers' audition. He and Stallone, they actually just started improvising a sparring match, like right there in the room.
Wow, that's amazing. And Burgess Meredith as Mickey, Rocky's trainer. What a legendary actor.
Absolutely. Stallone has described Nicky as a non-realized human being, someone who had potential, but it never really panned out for him. And Meredith really, he ran with that. He studied real-life boxing organizers, trainers, and really brought this depth to Mickey, that gravelly voice, that hunched posture, like a man carrying the weight of his disappointments.
Yeah. Nicky's one of those characters that just sticks with you. I mean, he's tough, he's demanding, but he really cares about Rocky.
Totally. And all of this filmed on a tiny budget. In fact, that tight budget led to some pretty creative solutions during filming.
Like, for example.
Well, remember that famous poster of Rocky with the wrong color shorts? That was a mistake.
Oh, yeah.
They couldn't afford to reprint the posters, so Stallone wrote a scene where Rocky himself sees the poster and comments on the mix-up. And then there's the training montage. The original idea was to have Rocky ice skating with a bunch of extras, something really big and spectacular, but they couldn't afford it.
Makes sense. I can only imagine how expensive that would have been.
Yeah, so instead they went with the now iconic running sequences through the streets of Philly.
Which became, legendary.
Right, and that moment where someone throws an orange to Rocky during his run, totally unplanned, completely improvised.
See, that's what I love about movie making, those happy accidents, the spontaneity.
Yeah, and speaking of changes, the ending of the movie.
The final fight with Apollo.
That was changed, too. The original ending was actually much darker. Rocky ends up, walking away from boxing altogether.
Really, that's not the ending I remember at all.
It's true. They even filmed that version and used it for some of the early marketing materials. But then Stallone, he decided it just wasn't right. It didn't have the emotional punch he was looking for. So they went with the more uplifting, hopeful ending that we all know and love.
I mean, that ending is perfect. It leaves you feeling so good. It's all about heart and perseverance, not just about winning or losing.
Exactly. And, it's really interesting how all these choices, these little decisions made along the way, shaped the film into what it became.
Absolutely. And those choices were often influenced by real life. I mean, Apollo Creed, he's clearly based on Muhammad Ali, right?
Oh, without a doubt. That charisma, the showmanship, the way he moves in the ring, it's all Ali. And it's kind of cool that Ali himself made an appearance with Stallone at the Oscars.
Yeah, I saw that clip. They were playfully sparring on stage. It's like, the champ passing the torch to the fictional champ in a way.
Yeah, it's this really nice moment of respect between these two larger-than-life figures.
And Rocky's training, the guy's a beast. Punching meat in the slaughterhouse, running up the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art.
Oh, yeah, that's straight out of Joe Frazier's playbook.
Joe Frazier, Ali's biggest rival. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. Frazier's training methods clearly inspired a lot of what we see Rocky doing, but he never got any official credit in the film.
Huh. That's kind of a shame.
It is, but, sometimes the influence is just there, even without the official recognition.
That's what's so cool about Rocky. It's this blend of fiction and reality, of personal struggle, and this, it's iconic American story. And it all takes place in a real city, Philadelphia.
Philly's a character in the movie, really. Some of those locations, they're practically landmarks.
Oh, totally. Like, what were some of them?
Rocky's house, 1818 East Tusculum Street. You got Polly and Adrian's apartment between 2822 and 2824 Rose Hill Street. Nicky's gym, that rough and tumble place right there on the corner of North Front Street and East Susquehanna Avenue. Then you got the Spectrum, where the big fight goes down, the pet shop where Adrian works at 2146 North Front Street.
Right. And, of course, the Philadelphia Museum of Art with those iconic steps.
Oh, yeah, that shot of Rocky at the top of those steps, arms raised in victory, it's instantly recognizable. Pure cinema.
Pure inspiration. Using these real locations, it just makes the film, it grounds it. It makes it feel authentic, real.
Absolutely. And Rocky was also innovative, technologically speaking.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They used a Steadicam, one of the first films to do so.
It was a pretty early version of the Steadicam, not as smooth as what we have today, but it gave those running scenes, the fight scenes, this raw energy, this immediacy. You're right there on the action with Rocky.
And speaking of energy, we have to talk about that soundtrack. Bill Conti, Gonna Fly Now. Iconic.
Talk about a theme song. That music, it just gets you pumped up. It captures the whole spirit of the film, the determination, the triumph. And get this, Bill Conti wrote the entire score, including Gonna Fly Now, in like a week.
No way. That's incredible.
Yeah, and Gonna Fly Now is a #1 hit on the Billboard charts, and it's ranked number 58 on AFI's list of 100 greatest songs.
That's amazing. And the full soundtrack, it came out in 1977. Conti went on to score pretty much all of the Rocky sequels, except, I think, Rocky IV.
Yeah, that's right. He became the sound of Rocky, And just listening to some of those other tracks like Philadelphia Morning, Going the Distance, Alone in the Ring, you can feel the whole emotional arc of the film.
It's like each track is a little story in itself. So Rocky premiered in New York on November 21st, 1976, with a wider release across the globe throughout 1977.
Yeah. And it just exploded. I mean, box office smash, $225 million worldwide on a budget of just over $1 million. Talk about return on investment. It was the highest grossing film of 1976.
Incredible. And the critics, I mean, it got some mixed reviews at first, right?
Yeah, it's funny how that happens sometimes. Roger Ebert, he loved it, gave it 4 stars, compared Stallone to a young Brando. Box Office Magazine, they also praised Stallone, calling him a rising star. But then you had critics like Vincent Canby of the New York Times. He wasn't so impressed with Stallone's acting. And Frank Rich, he had some issues with the plot, with the writing.
So it was a little divisive at first then. But the film's legacy is undeniable, right?
Oh, completely. It's like a 94% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. And even Quentin Tarantino, the king of cool cinema, he called Rocky his favorite boxing movie.
Wow. High praise indeed.
It is. And the awards. 3 Oscars, including Best Picture, Best Director for Nanji Avildsen, and Best Editing. Not bad for a little movie with a tiny budget.
Not bad at all.
And 10 Oscar nominations overall, including Best Actor and Best Original Screenplay for Stallone. He's one of only 3 people to ever be nominated for both acting and writing for the same film.
That's impressive company. Chaplin and Wells, right?
Yep. And a Golden Globe for Best Motion Picture Drama. And Stallone, he won a David DiDonatello Award for Best Foreign Actor. It was a global phenomenon.
Yeah, it really took the world by storm. And the accolades didn't stop there, did they?
Nope. The Library of Congress selected Rocky for preservation in the National Film Registry. They said it was culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. It's on a ton of the American Film Institute's 100 Years lists, too. You got number 57 on the Greatest American Movies list, number 52 for Most Inspiring Movies, number 4 for Most Heartwarming Movies, and number 2 for Sports Movies.
Number 2. What beat it?
Raging Bull, another boxing classic.
Well, can't argue with that. And Rocky Balboa himself is ranked number 7 on AFI's Greatest Movie Heroes list. Gonna Fly Now, number 58 on the Greatest Songs list. And then there's the famous line, Yo Adrian, that's number 80 on the Greatest Movie Quotes list. Plus, it won a Grammy for Best Album for Motion Picture or Television. I mean, that's a lot of recognition.
It is. The film's influence it goes on and on. And then you have the novelization and the musical adaptation, which took the story beyond the screen.
Yeah, the novelization was written by Rosalind Drexler under the pen name Julia Sorrell, and it came out pretty soon after the movie. And then there's the musical, Rocky the Musical, which ran in Italy from July 2022 to July 2025.
Wow, a musical.
And it starred Pier Paolo Petrelli as Rocky. I mean, it just shows you the story of Rocky, it continues to resonate.
Totally.
So taking this deep dive into Rocky, it really reveals a film that emerged from personal struggle, a moment of inspiration.
Yeah.
It's a film made on a shoestring budget, driven by the sheer will of its creator. It's a story about grabbing hold of an opportunity. And, maybe even more importantly, it's about the victory that comes from just going the distance no matter what.
It's that combination of the gritty realism of Philadelphia, the raw emotions of the characters, and that message of hope that really connected with people. It made it more than just a sports movie. It's a piece of cinematic history, a testament to the human spirit.
Think about this. A film made against all odds, starring a nobody, becomes a global phenomenon, spawns sequels, a spin-off, a musical.
Amazing.
What does that tell you about the power of a great story? What parts of Rocky's journey? I mean, what really speaks to you? And how can we apply those themes, those lessons, to the challenges we face in our own lives? That's something to think about. This is just the first round, folks. Keep exploring.
Keep fighting.
There's a whole lot more to discover.
Yeah.
See you next time on The Deep Dive.
See ya.